The night sky over Iraq lights up along with the sound of gunfire as the U.S. and Britain declare war on Saddam Hussein. It's Operation Desert Fox, and we'll have details coming up later tonight on Nightside. Good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Millette. We're going to have that story for you later, along with some holiday travel suggestions, a Santa Claus who speaks only to hearing-impaired children, and the fur flies over Furbies in the Maritimes. Paul Hollingsworth will be by with his full report on sports, and Peter Code's on deck with the complete maritime weather forecast. That and a whole lot more to follow, but first, the latest headlines making news at this hour in the Maritimes. As we said moments ago, the U.S. and Britain have fired on Iraq. The joint military attack called Operation Desert Fox was launched at about 5 o'clock Eastern time today over Iraq's latest defiance over UN weapons inspections. U.S. President Clinton says the targets were nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons sites. Prime Minister Chrétien says that Canada isn't involved in Operation Desert Fox. He says it's a strictly British-American endeavor.
You know, Saddam Hussein asked for it. He did not follow the requirements of the United Nations, and when the report came in, it was agreed among the leaders before that if they were to not agree with the work that had to be done, that there were to be a retaliation right away.
Chrétien went on to say that he has not specifically been asked for Canadian help with the strikes. For his part, Foreign Affairs Minister Lloyd Axworthy says that there have been more than enough diplomatic efforts in Iraq. Axworthy says the thoughts and prayers of Canadians go out to civilians in Iraq. Well, closer to home, Halifax Regional Police are investigating two separate bomb scares at this hour. Police say that someone threw rocks through the windows of two homes in Halifax tonight, but it was what was tied to the rocks that alerted police. They're investigating whether explosives were tied to the rocks. Residents were able to get out of their homes safely. The bomb squad was able to remove one of the devices from this Quinpool Road home. Investigators are working at removing the other device from this home in Clayton Park. Criminal charges have been laid against Nova Scotia Independent MLA Reeves Matheson. The 46-year-old former lawyer is accused of stealing money from his clients in Glace Bay. Police say the 12 charges against him include theft, fraud, breach of trust, and uttering forged documents. Matheson will appear in court January 12th. Melvin Leibold is a free man tonight. A jury found him not guilty of setting a fire in 1981 that killed his 5 children and injured his wife. Leibold had faced 5 counts of second-degree murder and 1 of attempted murder. The full story later tonight on Nightside. Well, the defense has rested at the Halifax sex crimes trial of former Nova Scotia Premier Gerald Regan. Capping a 3-hour summation, defense lawyer Ed Greenspan says the Crown has not proven its case. He said the jurors have to ask themselves why the complainants were so long in coming forward. Some of the allegations of rape and attempted rape date back 42 years. His summation reduced the entire Regan family, including the accused, to tears today. 2 Halifax brothers are dead following a plane crash in Nova Scotia. Their Cessna went down last night. The wreckage was found by searchers about 6:30 this morning near Liverpool, Nova Scotia. Still no word on the cause of the crash. New Brunswick is spending almost $40 million over the next year to fix up schools, but the education minister says that some schools are in such bad shape that they should be closed. In all, 300 schools will be looked at. Repairs could take 7 years. The new and larger Nova Scotia cabinet was sworn in today at the legislature. While several of the original cabinet exchanged portfolios, 2 new ministers were added, Ray White and Michel Sampson. The larger cabinet comes at a time when the government's looking to cut $82 million in its deficit. Premier McClellan says that he's not sending conflicting signals. He says that some ministers were overworked with the responsibilities of double portfolios. At least 7 people were killed in Italy today when a Rome apartment building collapsed without warning. The 5-story apartment block was home to about 16 families. It collapsed at 3 o'clock in the morning when most residents were asleep. Neighbors say they heard what sounded like an explosion, leading some to suspect a natural gas leak. But officials say that a structural flaw could have been the cause. Well, back in our area, teens in East St. John put their skills to work today to help out the less fortunate. It's become a Christmas tradition at Simons High School. For weeks, these students have been accepting donations of stuffed animals. Today, They began cleaning, brushing, mending, and dressing up all of those bears and bunnies every year. The students fix hundreds of stuffed animals of every description. The Simon's Lions Club will be distributing the bears to needy children in St. John. I'll have more local news later in the show, but before we go any further, time to check in with Paul Hollingsworth, who's working on Nightside Sports. Paul?
All right, thank you, Peter, and hi again, everybody. Tonight in sports, the St. John's Maple Leafs and Cape Breton Screaming Eagles are both back in action. We'll have those scores in the NHL. There's lots to talk about, including Toronto home to Phoenix. And speaking of talking, it's a Wednesday thing. John Moore drops by to talk a bit of hockey. Last week in the queue, there was roster moves. We had wins, we had losses, and performance after performance, rookie Halifax center Ladislav Nagy put on a thrilling show. John will discuss Nagy. He has the scoops, the insight, and perspective, all coming up on Nightside Sports. Also tonight, big day for Rockies big man Larry Walker, and Marlins president Don Smiley takes a walk. That and more coming up in sports. Peter.
Well, thank you, Paul. Our cover story tonight, holiday travel. Well, chances are you or someone you know will be traveling between now and the new year. It could be as elaborate as an overseas flight or as simple as a drive to your folks or your in-laws. Either way, you will be joining thousands of Maritimers on the roads, highways, and in the air. Well, if you want to fly somewhere over the holidays and haven't booked your seat yet, you could be asking for trouble. Travel agents are swamped, airports are getting busier and busier, and there are only very few deals left out there so close to Christmas. The story from ATV's Pat Kroskoff.
I'm going to Winnipeg. Okay, via Ottawa.
If you're heading home and you have one of these, you're laughing. If you don't, you may be the butt of a travel agent's joke.
It would be a controlled laughter on behalf of the travel counselor, I think, that because they usually caveat that. They say, I would like to go away for Christmas and I would like some of the cheap seats. So although there may be seats available in business class or at full fare, and if you're flexible in terms of your time, you may find something, but probably not at a price that you would want to pay.
We're heading into a peak traveling season, a time when airport lineups are the norm and patience is a virtue. Like elves scrambling at the last minute, crews are finishing up airport renovations in time for the crowds.
Around the 2 days before and after Christmas, that's really when we get our big peak. And we get about 50% additional traffic around those 2 days. It's about 15 to 20,000 extra passengers within those 2 days.
So far, things are moving smoothly.
I've been here for about 5 minutes and I'm already at the front of the line, so I'd say things have been pretty good so far.
I'm leaving early because you can get a better seat if you leave early.
The Air Canada strike last fall triggered a round of seat sales. As a result, some experts say this will be one of the busiest Christmas traveling seasons in years.
Air Canada 961, yeah.
That's good news for travel agents and airlines who have very little left to sell. Bad news for travelers desperate to fly home for the holidays.
The other option is via rail.
In Halifax, Pat Kroskoff, ATV News.
Well, the majority of people who will be traveling over the holidays will be doing so by car. Turns out Christmas is the second busiest time of year for road travel. The busiest is Labor Day weekend. But Christmas travel can be a lot more dangerous because of the weather. ATV's Sally Cummings has some tips on how to keep your trip safe.
With Christmas falling on a Friday this year, the CAA says traffic should begin picking up on maritime highways midweek. Gary Howard cautions motorists to have a safe trip.
1, prepare your vehicle. Make sure it's good roadworthy condition.
Check your brakes and tires and make sure the windshield fluid is filled up. And notify someone of your travel plans.
As to when you're leaving, which route you're taking, and when you expect to arrive.
Pack an emergency kit, which includes road flares, a flashlight, and a warm blanket.
If you do happen to break down, don't venture too far from your vehicle.
If you head out on foot, leave a note. And if you don't think your car will make the trip, maybe you should rent a vehicle. But do it soon because they're booking up fast.
Chances are, if you don't have a reservation, you're probably not going to be able to just walk in Christmas Eve and get a car because everything here is going to be reserved at that point.
Finally, don't pack your car full of gifts.
Your car, make sure you've got lots of room to see.
And don't forget to buckle up.
The most important tip is to leave yourself plenty of time.
Holiday travelers are easily distracted, and the CAA warns motorists not to rush.
So everyone's thinking about something else, the best thing that you can do is just concentrate on driving and get there safely.
In St. John, Sally Cummings, ATV News.
So if you don't have a car and can't afford bus fare, train fare, or even a flight, don't despair because there are alternatives. And with more on that tonight, here's ATV's Ron Shaw in Moncton.
There aren't quite so many anymore, and they don't go to as many places. Still, the trains are still around. It's a comfortable, even nostalgic way to travel. Trains sometimes offer a bar car or canteen. And then there's the bus. This terminal manager says there are some definite advantages.
Everyone is guaranteed to get to their destination. We don't take a reservation, but we have buses that we put on extra when it's needed.
Traffic is already starting to pick up for Christmas. Stations are noticeably busier. Lots of people take the bus, but this time of year the bus stations seem to be full of students. Why by bus?
Because it's the only way, actually. I don't have a car and no trains.
For me, it's good because I just go to Fredericton, so the train is just kind of slower, and I guess I just prefer the bus, that's all.
And the bus connects to the ferry in North Sydney for those venturing over to Newfoundland's Blessed Rock. If you're going, make reservations now for the return trip as well. Spaces are filling up. In Moncton, Ron Shaw, ATV News.
Well, if you're thinking of taking a cruise this holiday season, we have this postscript to all of our stories about Christmas travel. They're still trying to figure out how to refloat a cruise ship that ran aground yesterday off the Caribbean island of Saint Martin. The almost 2,600 passengers were evacuated from the 67,000-ton Monarch of the Seas. Well, still ahead tonight, Santa and sign language. Santa speaks to some special kids in a language only they can understand. That's later, but first.
Product failed me, and star come through. So
We'll help one Maritimer patch up his roofing problem. Star Dobson's on the case when Nightside continues.
Closed captioning for Nightside is brought to you by Duggar's Quality Men's Clothing, Spring Garden Road, Halifax, when you're looking for that special gift this Christmas.
These are all wrapped and ready for the mailbox.
Thank you.
Brian Martin and his wife put the finishing touches on their holiday decorating today. It was a gorgeous day in Cape Breton, so they even took time to wash their windows. Maybe that's so Santa will have a better view of their Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. Well, Nightside's on your side now with help for a New Brunswick man. Ted Ross bought a re-roofing product 3 years ago. It came with a 10-year guarantee. But back in August, his roof started to leak. Well, needless to say, the Miramichi man was not impressed, especially when he felt that he wasn't getting any satisfaction from the company. Here's ATV's Star Dobson with the rest of the story.
all along this whole side of the roof. So the inside in the attic was all wet.
Ted Ross wasn't expecting his roof to give him any problems for at least another 7 years. The Miramichi man sealed it 3 years ago with this product from Master's Choice, and it wasn't cheap.
It cost me close to $900 for the materials for the roof.
But following a rainstorm in August, this roof started to leak.
I had water coming in my bedroom roof, or bedroom ceiling. And the next day when the rain stops, I went up and investigated. And the product that I'd put on my roof had cracked.
Since the product came with a 10-year warranty, Ted decided to make some calls to the company. He was told he'd be taken care of, but after waiting close to 4 months for results, he started feeling frustrated.
Being an old serviceman, I'm used to being passed around the circle. I don't like it too much. So that's when I decided I better look for help.
Ted contacted ATV on your side. We called Master's Choice on his behalf. Representatives assured us the problem was being handled, and within 2 weeks, Ted received a full shipment of new product free of charge.
I was impressed with the speed, very impressed. I think that it's a very beneficial program that your station has.
Ted is pleased and says he's now looking forward to fully fixing his roof in the spring.
Product failed me, and Star come through. So Star makes me happy with all her good work.
In Halifax, Star Dobson, ATV News.
Well, new on the market from General Motors, a trunk safety kit that's designed to prevent children from locking themselves inside. Teresa Roncon has the details.
July 15th, New Mexico. 4 cousins, ages 2 to 6, died from heat exhaustion after getting locked in the trunk of a car, probably while playing. A month later in Utah, 5 little girls, also 2 to 6, died the same tragic way. Today, General Motors announced the company has designed and developed a trap-resistant trunk kit, which can be installed in most of its 1990 and newer cars made in North America. The way it works is twofold. First, the kit is designed to prevent children from unintentionally being locked in. Second, if they are trapped, there's a glowing handle inside the trunk that children can see in the dark and which they can pull to free themselves.
While the escape release is an important part of the kit, let me emphasize the fact that the key element in our trap-resistant trunk kit is a modified trunk latch to help prevent entrapment.
GM tested many devices on more than 100 children ages 3 to 7 and found this latch to be the most effective with the little ones.
Well, it's the kind of danger that parents worry about at Halloween, but then ignore for the rest of the year. Well, a young girl finding a knife blade in a bag of candy. But as we hear from ATV's Janet Stewart tonight, police say that we should be careful year-round.
There you go. There you go.
When Kimberly Faulkner asked for a treat, her mother gave her $1. She bought this surprise bag of candy and got more of a surprise than she wanted.
It was an X-Acto knife blade. There was like 3 blades together. You know, I wonder if her brother hadn't asked her to show what was in the bag, if she would have maybe just put her hand in and, you know, just to take everything out.
Kimberly bought the bag at this convenience store. An official with the chain says the product has been pulled from all 25 Needs and Dean Gable stores within Metro Halifax.
The company that makes the surprise bags, Trevor Allen, says it runs all of its candy through a metal detector before it's packaged. Yet the company's media director admits this is not the first time a small metal object, like a blade, has been found in a Trevor Allen product. David Hode says in another incident, the investigation found the object was likely added after the product left the plant.
Children tend to tear into these types of packages and could easily have gotten cut by this particular thing. And so it's always a danger.
The RCMP says this story should change the way parents look at candy.
Keep an eye out for that sort of thing. If you open a surprise bag or any other product for that matter, it pays to be cautious. You never know what you might find in there.
Certainly from now on I'll do that.
Barb Faulkner has returned the surprise bag to Trevor Allen in Ontario. The company says it will try to find out how the knife blade got into Kimberly's candy. In Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia, Janet Stewart, ATV News.
And still with that story late today, company representatives confirmed that they received the grab bag in question. Their investigation so far shows that the blade was part of a case cutter, which isn't allowed in their facility. The company also says that it has investigated all products from the store and no foreign objects have been found. Trevor Allen has also examined 4,000 grab bags in its factory without any sign of foreign objects. Well, still to come tonight, Melvin Leibold is a free man. A jury has found Leibold not guilty of setting a fire in 1981 that killed his 5 children and injured his wife. The full story is coming up later tonight on Nightside. But first, one Maritimer rises to the challenge, all for the hottest toy of the season. Furby Mania strikes again when Nightside continues.
Hello. You know that Ron Cronstein fella?
Yeah.
He's coming on our show to cook tomorrow.
You know that Brookside Junior High?
Yes.
They've got a choir. They're going to be here performing tomorrow, too.
You know those athletes from the Special Olympics?
Yes.
Yes.
They're going to be at the Forum with me tomorrow. We're going to be doing some speed skating.
Yeah.
PC.
Well, a pair of extra hands is always helpful, even when tying a pair of skates. Susan Peters, along with her son Kieran, were helping Allison Proudfoot get her skates on, just in time for the A.G. Bally Elementary skating party in New Glasgow today. Remember Tickle Me Elmo? Well, one of the hottest selling toys this Christmas is the Furby. They are so popular, in fact, that people are lining up for them. Stores can't keep them on the shelves. Well, in an attempt to cash in on the Furby Mania today, a maritime radio station sponsored a bizarre contest to determine how far their listeners would go for a Furby. ATV's Kim Brunhuber was there when the fur flew, and he files this report.
What could possibly reduce a mature mother of 2 to human shake and bake? It all started as a joke. a local radio station ran a contest asking listeners what they would do for one of these. If you've never seen a Furby before, this is it. Like the Cabbage Patch Doll and the Tickle Me Elmo of years before, this is the toy for Christmas. It costs about $40 in stores, but most stores have been sold out for weeks. Now, some of them are going for as much as $1,200 on the internet.
Oh, she wanted it bad. She was crying.
Kim Buchanan was told she was the 1,500th person to call Sears about the Furby. They'd been sold out for days. So, what else could she do? Why, offer to cover herself in molasses and feathers and squawk like a chicken. Her daughter Alexandra clearly approved, but it's Alexandra's sister Taylor, who knows nothing about Mom's little stunt, who will be the most excited when she unwraps the Furby on Christmas Day.
When she opens that up, that'll make her Christmas, I hope.
What do you think she's going to think of her mother now?
Oh, I don't know now. That I'm crazy.
And what does Furby think about all the fuss over little old him? In Mahone Bay, Kim Brunhuber, ATV News.
Well, a Santa Claus who speaks a universal language is giving kids something to believe in this Christmas. He uses sign language to speak to deaf children. The children bring a wish list, and Santa Claus speaks to them in a language only they can understand. Sandra Fiedler has that story.
We've got a lot of work to do.
You guys see Santa? What do you want? What kind of present? Oh, teddy bears.
I like him.
Hey, Aaron, let's look.
Look right up here.
He don't look like I.
So, yeah.
They love Santa because he always understands them.
Merry Christmas.
Santa knows exactly
really
what they want for Christmas.
I wanted to have a piano.
It's pretty tough.
But Santa's job isn't always easy.
It's very tough trying to keep up with all the makes and models and new toys and the toys that can hurt children and the toys that are good for children. Come on, Kevin, sit on my lap.
But what he is great at is making all children feel important. He speaks every language.
Understand?
Even to those who don't hear.
What do you want for Christmas? A cat? Everybody wants a cat. It's always a nice surprise seeing their faces light up. Oh, he speaks my language. I must be pretty special.
They see him, talk to them, they can see him sign to them, and they can sign back.
Game Boy?
And he has a special place in his heart for children who don't come in perfect packages.
Because they sometimes lead lives that it's too real for them. They need to have something to believe in also, like Santa Claus. And when Santa Claus can sign to them in their own language, they have something to believe in.
Game for computer.
I thought that Santa was nice, and it's cool about Santa that he's signing to us.
Santa likes him? Like Santa's mom?
And that's why kids are so amazed by this man.
That's pretty nice. What do you think I want for Christmas?
He understands what's in their hearts.
I want to lose about 30 pounds. I'm getting pretty big. Ho, ho, ho.
Wow.
That report from Sandra Fiedler. Time to take a short break, but when we come back tonight, we'll have local reaction to the bombings against Iraq. We'll also tell you the latest about Reeves Matheson, who was arrested today and is up on 12 charges. The jury in the Gerald Regan's sex crimes trial is beginning deliberations tomorrow. And the latest on Melvin Leibold. He walked out of court today a free man. Details on those stories and more after the break. Tonight on ATV News Nightside. Not guilty. Jury finds in favor of Melvin Leibold.
What about the children? They don't have another chance.
Then, under arrest, a Nova Scotia MLA is booked on 12 charges.
These 12 charges include counts of theft over $5,000.
And in sports, it's a busy Wednesday in the NHL.
Live from the Maritimes, ATV News Nightside with Peter Millette.
Good evening. The U.S. and Britain are attacking Iraq with cruise missiles. At least 2 missiles have fallen on the capital, Baghdad. Witnesses say one of them fell near President Saddam Hussein's biggest palace in the city. It is not clear where the other missile fell. Today's attack is over Iraq's refusal to comply with UN weapons inspections. Closer to home, Prime Minister Jean Chrétien supports American airstrikes against Iraq, saying that dictator Saddam Hussein asked for it. However, Nova Scotia peace activist Muriel Duckworth is criticizing Canada's support of Bill Clinton.
I think it's absolutely terrible. I'm absolutely opposed to it. Just piling on violence after violence in order to solve this conflict that's going on between the United States and Iraq. It's not getting anywhere.
Duckworth says that 8 out of 10 people who are killed during military strikes are civilians. Halifax police are investigating 2 bomb scares at this hour. Police say that someone threw rocks through the windows of 2 homes in Halifax tonight, but it was what was taped to the rocks that alerted police. They're investigating whether explosives were attached. The bomb squad was able to remove one of the devices from this Quinpool Road home. They're working at removing the other.
About a half an hour before this one. We believe they may be related, but that's not confirmed either.
The other device took police to a home in Clayton Park outside of Halifax. Residents were able to get out of their homes safely. Well, he went to court, a man accused of killing his 5 children. Today, he walked out of court a free man. A jury has acquitted Melvin Leibold 17 years after the fire in which his children perished. ATV's Mark Petroni has the story.
Some wept bitterly as Melvin Leibold walked away from court, acquitted on charges he murdered his 5 children 17 years ago by setting fire to the family home.
I feel great.
In stark contrast, Leibold's ex-wife, Carrie Borgel, wept uncontrollably in the arms of a family member. Leibold was also acquitted of trying to murder her in the same fire. Leibold's own sister bitterly condemned the verdict.
What about the children? They don't have another chance. They never had a chance.
The 5 Leibold children, Simon, Tammy, Jimmy, Andy, and 3-year-old Sherry, died in February 1981 when their rundown home in Tangier, Nova Scotia, burned to the ground. Carrie Borgel, the children's mother, suffered serious burns. Leibold himself escaped unharmed.
In 1981, this matter was investigated and it was ruled accidental. 17 years pass and the RCMP make the unfortunate error of deciding to reinvestigate and charge when there's just no evidence of any wrongdoing at all.
Crown lawyers did produce a taped confession in which Leibold is heard admitting he tampered with a wood and oil stove so it would catch fire and set the house ablaze. But defense lawyers argued Leibold was not in his right mind when he made the confession.
Juries in this country are asked to consider all the facts. They certainly had all the facts. They heard about 23 days of evidence. They heard very good argument. They heard a charge from his lordship, and they made their decision.
Despite being found not guilty on all counts, Leibold's legal problems may not quite be over, thanks to an alleged breach of the terms of his bail. For the last week of his trial, Leibold has been in custody after allegedly threatening some family members who testified against him. He could be charged with violating a court order.
He would have to be arrested, brought before a justice of the peace or a provincial court judge, and an order would have to be granted holding him on those provisions. Whether that's ever going to happen is, at this point, speculation.
Despite that, Leibold, once accused of being a mass murderer, left court today a free man. In Halifax, Mark Petroni, ATV News.
The Gerald Regan sex crimes case is just about ready for the jury. 2 lawyers spent the day on closing arguments. Regan's lawyers, Eddie Greenspan, went first, and as ATV's Rick Grant reports tonight, he brought the entire Regan family to tears.
Defense lawyer Edward Greenspan went first. By law, he had to, once his client Gerald Regan took the stand in his own defense. Greenspan told jurors they must acquit Regan if the best they can come up with is Gerald Regan probably did it. They must be able to point a finger at him and call him a rapist. He reminded the jury crimes alleged by 2 complainants are 42 years old, older than some of the jurors. He told the 4 men and 6 women, "You must ask yourself, why didn't they come forward earlier? Why didn't they come forward when we could check? Why didn't they come forward when we could find the pit, if there was one? Why didn't they come forward when we could see the blood on the raincoat, if there was blood, if there was a raincoat?" He was referring to the first complainant who says Regan raped her in a gravel pit. Greenspan said the women couldn't be believed and his client could. He said, "I urge you to acquit Gerald Regan, not only because the Crown has failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. I say it because Gerald Regan has proven his innocence beyond a shadow of a doubt." He brought the Regan family to tears when he said, "Little did the Regans know on their honeymoon that they would spend their 42nd anniversary in a courtroom fighting sex crimes allegations against the former premier."
Edward Greenspan raised the image of the Salem witch trials and fell just short of comparing Gerald Regan's situation to that. As soon as his turn came, prosecutor Adrian Reed began his remarks by trying to diffuse the emotion generated by Greenspan.
Reed said the prosecution is not a witch hunt, it's a trial. He said the complainants were subjected to extraordinary cross-examination by Greenspan. Reed: "This is a criminal matter, and like all criminal matters, it must be settled on the evidence. It is not an emotional exercise." He told the jurors that the third complainant cried on the witness stand under cross-examination. Her children would be crying too, but that doesn't make her any more credible. Then he started dealing with specific cases. He admitted that there were some problems with the shifting testimony of the second complainant, but she was a totally believable witness. He retold the evidence of the first complainant who says Regan raped her in the gravel pit. Reed: "She remembers this happened. She remembers it extremely well. She remembers his weight on her. She remembers the pain. She remembers." Justice Michael McDonald will complete his charge to the jury tomorrow, and they will begin their deliberations. In Halifax, Rick Grant, ATV News.
A Nova Scotia MLA has been charged with a dozen criminal offenses. Reeves Matheson was charged this afternoon following a lengthy investigation. That story tonight from Randy McDonald in Sydney.
Going to stay on as MLA or what?
No, I have no comment.
Reeves Matheson arrives at Cape Breton Regional Police Headquarters, accompanied by a lawyer and saying little. The 47-year-old MLA was fingerprinted, photographed, briefed on the charges he faces, and then released. Matheson is accused of crimes which carry maximum sentences of up to 14 years.
These 12 charges include counts of theft over $5,000, fraud over $5,000, criminal breach of trust, uttering of a forged document.
Reeves Matheson! All of the charges stem from complaints covering a 10-year period ending in December of last year. That was before Matheson was elected as an MLA and during his legal career. The accused has already admitted stealing more than $50,000 from two clients. That prompted his disbarment in May, barely 2 months after he was elected. The criminal case against Mr. Matheson follows hard on the heels of both professional disgrace and political disaffiliation from the party which helped to get him elected.
I guess everybody makes mistakes, so I better not comment on it.
Not everyone on the streets of Glace Bay wants to discuss the Matheson scandal, but of those who do, most say now is the time for their accused MLA to quit.
I say you should resign, truthfully.
Yeah?
Yeah.
If Matheson resigns, it could force a by-election. And proof that politics makes strange bedfellows is the fact one of the MLA's brothers has already declared himself a candidate for the NDP nomination in the riding. But today, Blair Matheson's comments were personal, not political.
And I feel sorry for him, and I feel sorry for his family, and I feel sorry for the family in general, because 98 has been nothing but a nightmare.
Our client's innocent, period.
Matheson has a January court date to plead to the charges. If convicted, the MLA faces automatic removal from the Nova Scotia legislature. In Sydney, Randy McDonald, ATV News.
Well, investigators say they don't know yet what caused a small plane to crash near Liverpool last night. The pilot, Keith Sanson, and his brother David were both killed when their four-seater Cessna dropped into dense woodlands just beyond the end of the runway. ATV's Jonathan Kay has the story.
It was supposed to be a routine trip from Dartmouth to Greenfield, just outside Liverpool, in a four-seater Cessna 172, just like this one. 25-year-old Keith Sansom was at the controls. He was a fully qualified private pilot who was practicing night flying to qualify for a commercial pilot's license. To keep him company, his 19-year-old brother David came along. A kilometer from the end of the Greenfield runway, something went wrong.
The plane is, I guess, completely broken apart.
From the air, the crash site is barely visible. One piece of debris hangs from a tree. Pilots familiar with the airport say the intact treetops, none were sheared off in the crash, and the plane's location lead them to suspect the plane was taking off then lost airspeed and stalled. The Transportation Safety Board investigators say they're not sure of anything.
To understand this accident further, we want to identify if the aircraft had in fact landed there and had departed, or if it was en route in approach to the airport.
No one was here at the South Shore Regional Airport when the Stansons were scheduled to have landed. The runway lights here work on an automated system. Any pilot flying overhead can turn them on by remote control using the plane's two-way radio. Peter Bing was one of Sansom's flying instructors.
Keith was a very outgoing student, very energetic, and loved flying. He had a natural ability, and in his academics, he excelled.
Keith Sansom's widow says he often flew in and out of the South Shore Airport, so she suspects equipment failure, not pilot error. But she says she doesn't really care what the investigation reveals. 9 days before Christmas, her husband and her brother-in-law are dead. In Greenfield, Nova Scotia, Jonathan Kay, ATV News.
In other news tonight, 3 people were killed in a 3-vehicle collision on Route 105 in New Brunswick this morning. Very few details are available, but RCMP say that there are survivors. The collision occurred shortly before 11 a.m. and it involved a pulp truck and 2 vehicles. Military police at CFB Gagetown have confirmed that a rocket launcher was seized during a drug raid near the base last week. Base officials say that 6 military personnel were arrested after 2 rifles, 100 rounds of military ammunition, and the rocket launcher were confiscated from a house. A small amount of marijuana was also seized. Lieutenant Mike Gallant says that an investigation is continuing and none of the 6 have been charged as yet. Hundreds of schools in New Brunswick need repairs. Some are downright dangerous. The government plans to spend $38 million repairing the most seriously damaged schools. Details on that tonight from ATV's Laverne Stewart.
86 years ago, St. Dunstan's Elementary School was a shiny new learning environment. Now Fredericton's Fire Marshal says it's not safe. The government has it targeted as the worst school in the province. Other schools with serious health and safety problems include Grand Manan Elementary, Sussex Junior High, Perth Andover Elementary, the Père Edgar T. LeBlanc School, Moncton's Queen Elizabeth School, and Canterbury Elementary.
I'm not surprised by the health and safety concerns. We have old buildings. And
Education Minister Bernard Richard says the most serious structural problems will be repaired immediately.
$38 million next year, and we'll be very strategic about it. Obviously, we're going to deal with the health and safety concerns first.
Over 300 schools across New Brunswick need repairs. Some are so old and in such bad shape, the Education Minister says it doesn't make sense to keep them open. This one, for example, will close next year. Some parents agree that closing the school makes more sense than paying millions to repair it.
$2 million is what, 50 kids? I don't think it's worth it. Personally, I like my grandson to come to this school. It's close. But for $2 million, I think that's a bit much.
Others don't want to send their kids to another school.
Well, I still think it's better off than some of the other schools. Connaught's a little overcrowded.
The government says it can't afford to build new schools. It will use some of the repair money to expand existing ones to make room for students being displaced by the school closures. In Fredericton, Laverne Stewart, ATV News.
Another consortium is pulling out of natural gas distribution in the Maritimes. Co-op Atlantic, BC Gas International, and Sask Energy have announced that they're pulling out of the bidding process for New Brunswick. They say that a cabinet decision to cater to large industrial users will make distribution to smaller businesses and homes impossible. They feel the province's policy will hinder the growth of the economy in years to come. And finally tonight, police in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Labrador responded to a bizarre armed standoff. RCMP say that shortly before 6 o'clock this morning, they received a call from a man who indicated that he was going to harm himself. Well, several roads were blocked off and the man's home surrounded by police. A man armed with an industrial-strength slingshot fired rocks at officers and kept them at bay. No one was hurt. After 2 hours, a 47-year-old man was taken into custody. That wraps up our look at news to this hour. Paul Hollingsworth joins us right now for a brief look ahead to what he's got coming up tonight in sports.
Well, I'm not equipped with a slingshot. But
easy for you to say.
Yes, but I have a lot going on tonight. NHL action, and my good buddy John Moore, he knows a lot about hockey, and he's going to drop by and talk about the Quebec League for a while, as is always the case on Wednesday night. That's coming up soon.
Thanks, Paul. We'll look forward to that.
I'll be here.
Also to come tonight, Peter Coe with everything you need to know, complete maritime weather forecast after this short break. Stay tuned. Nightside's back in a moment.
Tonight's weather is brought to you by your maritime Permacrete dealers.
Minus 12 in Goose Bay, minus 10 in Wabash, as you see there. But elsewhere around the Maritimes, lows, or rather temperatures right now, just around the freezing mark. A beautiful day today right through Atlantic Canada. Let's hope that weather continues. With everything we need to know, here's ATV's Peter Coe. Peter?
Thank you, Peter. Well, we'll take a look at our jet stream, and on it, when it was analyzed early this morning, and it shows it running over the northern Gulf of St. Lawrence across Newfoundland, this is a disturbance that we now have in the Maritimes. This is where it was earlier this morning. Now, as far as temperatures across the country tomorrow go, this is the way it should look. We can expect in Newfoundland and Labrador, particularly Labrador, much colder than normal temperatures. In Newfoundland, while some areas are going to be above normal, for example, the Avalon, this room showing the 5 degrees in St. John's. The Maritimes, with some rain and or snow, will be near to slightly above normal. And it's quite cool in the wake of this particular disturbance, minus 2 expected at the nation's capital. Much colder air moving into the prairie provinces, and that'll be spreading right across to Manitoba. So they're saying goodbye to the mild spell they've had for the past few weeks. 8 degrees expected in the Vancouver and Victoria area. As far as weather systems go, one moving through the Maritimes tonight will be moving out of Newfoundland by this time tomorrow night to make way for another one to move into the Maritimes, but a bit of a break in between the two will give us some sunny breaks. Labrador will remain on the sunny side of the street. Southern Ontario, mostly sunny as well. Some light snow in much of Manitoba. Cloudy in the central areas and northern areas of the prairie provinces. Some sunshine in the south, though, and sunny breaks in British Columbia. Now, overnight tonight in the Maritimes, cloud moving in from the southwest will bring us a mixture of rain and wet snow. That'll likely be changing over, though, to wet snow before daybreak with the wind back into more northerly. Overnight temperatures in PEI and Nova Scotia 0 to +1. New Brunswick with some flurries, -7 to -1. Now, for tomorrow, then, we'll start with some wet snow in the eastern areas of the Maritimes. It'll be moving out, leaving behind 2 to 5 centimeters. Some sunny breaks can be expected until late afternoon when the next system moves into western mainland Nova Scotia with some showers and or wet flurries. Afternoon temperatures tomorrow +2 to +4. Now, for New Brunswick, we'll start the day with cloud, possibly a flurry, but that'll be moving out in the forenoon. Afternoon temperatures of -2 to +2. However, by the afternoon, more cloud and snow will be moving in. Some light snow with a brisk northeasterly wind. Afternoon temperatures, I mentioned, -2 to +2, so that could be mixed with some rain down on the Fundy coast. Now, overnight tonight for Newfoundland, Labrador, and the Magdalen Islands. Inland in Newfoundland, some clear breaks, but where the westerly wind blows on shore, some flurries. Overnight lows -11 to -1. And for Labrador, fine night, -24 to -15 with a moderate westerly wind. The Magdalens, just a few clouds as well. The overnight low near -2. Now, for tomorrow, that's when we'll see some weather move into Newfoundland and the Magdalens, though. It will remain mostly sunny in Labrador, but any sunny breaks in Newfoundland inland as well as the Magdalens in the morning will be giving way to some snow, wet snow and or rain. However, that'll be moving out later in the afternoon. Will remain mostly cloudy or taper to flurries. Afternoon highs 0 to +5. The Magdalens, sunny breaks returning later in the day, +1. And as I mentioned, Labrador is going to remain mostly sunny. We still have some unsettled weather coming up right through the weekend, though. Some snow and some rain. Not very December-like. Peter?
Well, thank you, Mr. Code. Well, people in St. John took advantage of the weather tonight to roll out the Christmas red carpet for a convoy of senior citizens. Santa welcomed a convoy to Autumnwood Lane in Quispamsis, where every home is brightly decorated with lights. Neighbors served up hot chocolate and warm smiles for the visiting seniors.
This particular area, there's been a neighborly atmosphere, and it just grows every year.
Just something to do with Christmas. We had heard that seniors had trouble getting out to see the lights, and it's just progressed from there.
The Seniors Convoy is a Christmas tradition sponsored by Centennial Pontiac. This year, the convoy had about 20 vehicles and 80 seniors from around the St. John's area. For about 2 hours tonight, they drove throughout St. John and surrounding communities, admiring the bright lights and the Christmas decorations. Well, coming up next, taking control of video gambling. Officials in a maritime town believe they can do just that, and we'll tell you how they plan to do it when Nightside continues.
Tonight's business report is brought to you by Standard Auto Glass.
On the markets today, the TSC was up 47 points in New York, the Dow down 32. The Canadian dollar was up 1/10 of a cent, and gold was up $2.25. The New Brunswick government has announced that it is making up to $1 million available to help hog farmers through the winter. That move is intended to assist farmers until promised federal aid is available in the spring. An anti-smoking group on PEI is turning up the heat on lawmakers to further curb smoking in public places. The Council for a Smoke-Free PEI handed 3 studies over to the province's health minister. The group recently approached a legislative committee about limiting smoking in the workplace. Regulating where people light up is usually left to municipalities, but the council wants to see the province set some kind of standards. Well, Quispamsis is laying down its own law on video lottery terminals. The town plans to use a combination of a new community plan and new zoning laws to regulate the machines within its boundaries. Here's ATV's Connell Smith.
Quispamsis, a community of 13,000 people within easy commuting distance of St. John.
Take them out.
Ask people on the streets here and you get a predictable range of views when it comes to VLTs.
Yes, they should be banned. Too many people blowing their money.
I wouldn't bother with it. I'd leave them alone. I mean, you're not going to stop people, and they're going to gamble regardless of what's going on.
But this is a town that has decided it is going to bother with the machines. In fact, it hopes to get rid of them.
Municipalities across the region have found that they have no say whatsoever when it comes to VLTs. But they do have some control over zoning. And that is how this town hopes to gain the upper hand.
Mayor Leslie Hamilton Brown believes that a new municipal plan with appropriate zoning regulations will do the job.
Well, it's the first time it'll be tried in New Brunswick, I believe, but there is precedence in Surrey, BC. So, you know, it has been done in other areas of the country.
The move comes after the suicide of town councillor Darrell Bishop's nephew, a young man who was addicted to video gambling.
The big thing is we have to get rid of these machines and get them out of our society in New Brunswick.
But the owner of a Quispamsis business that has the machines says it's no good banning them in one municipality and allowing the machines in the next.
If anybody really believes in their mind that they won't move to the next geographic location, they're crazy. You know, the player that wants to play these machines will find a machine to play somewhere in the geographic area where they live.
Jerry Lowe says illegal machines will likely return if VLTs are banned. There's been no reaction today from the provincial government. In Quispamsis, Connell Smith, ATV News.
Thanks, Connell. Coming up next in sports, Paul Hollingsworth has the highlights from a busy Wednesday in the NHL. He has all of your scores and more when Nightside continues.
And hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Nightside. In the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League tonight, just one game involving teams from our region. The Screaming Eagles on the road battling the Baie-Comeau Drakkar. And let's check the scoreboard. We will see the Eagles beat the lowly Drakkar by a score of, there it is, 4-2. That's your final. More on the Quebec League in a moment with the voice of the Mooseheads, John Moore. In the AHL, the St. John's Maple Leafs knocked out the Worcester Ice Cats 5-4. Of note, the Baby Habs picked up winger Aaron Asham from the parent Montreal Canadiens. He was demoted today. NHL tonight, a big test for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Phoenix came to town, and the Coyotes are the holders of the best